Chapter 353, Cripple Translangel. Editor, Kurisu. On the second day, Linghan indeed still obtained the Thunder Battle armor, which made him extremely pleased. Firstly, the Thunder Battle armor was indeed a very valuable treasured tool, and years ago, Zishuixian had worn it all day, treating it like it was a priceless treasure. Secondly, it was precisely because this was a spirit tool one of his old acquaintances had used before. Linghan felt very nostalgic. He was reborn after 10,000 years, and all around him, the people he met were all strangers to him. Thus, when he saw an old possession of someone whom he had known years ago, how could he not be overwhelmed by emotions? Then he'd just go to the Dark Devil Forest. Linghan had made his decision. The reason why he had come to the Winter Moon Sect was to find out where his mother was, bring trouble to the Ao clan, and in passing, steal some good stuff. These three motives were practically fulfilled. He had collected a considerable number of spiritual herbs, and had even obtained the Thunder Battle armor. He had defeated all the 7 sons of Ao family, and killed Ao Zitai. Lastly, since Yukai Yu was going with him, then he would naturally have a lot of time to probe for information. This cousin and his uncle had more or less the same personality. They were very forthright and straightforward people, and weren't really ones to keep secrets. Thus, after he obtained the Thunder Battle armor, Linghan decided to set out, Yue Kai. Yu went with him, and looked to be in high spirits at that. It seemed that this guy had only left the sect for a trial twice, and even during these 2 times, he had not gone too far. Thus, he had never really left on a long journey away from the sect. Linghan sighed. This guy said he wanted to help him, but the best he could hope for was that he wouldn't hold him back. He and Yue Kai Yu set out together and descended the mountain. Linghan! However, they had just arrived at the foot of the mountain when they suddenly heard a voice filled with venom ring out behind them. Yi, this voice was Feng Yan. Linghan did not turn around. He was now Han Lin, and not Linghan. You actually still dare to come here. Die! Feng Yan roared furiously, drawing his saber and delivered a strike at Linghan. Shoo! 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 There actually appeared 6 flashes of saber chi that transformed into 6 cold, bright, sharp blades that charged towards Linghan. This guy had improved very fast. At that time in the Rain Country, he had only formed 4 flashes of saber chi, but now he had shockingly reached the level of 6 flashes. Looks like after Linghan crippled one of his legs, he had received a huge provocation, which boosted his comprehension in his saber arts. Shua. Cold chi spread throughout the air, and the severe, fierce saber chi streaked through the air, making for a very terrifying spectacle. Are you crazy? Because he was standing together with Linghan, Yukai Yu was naturally in the vicinity of this attack as well. Furthermore, the name that Feng Yan had called out was incomprehensible. He naturally would not think that it had any relation to Linghan, and only thought that they had encountered a maniac. So he immediately delivered his own punch. His arms immediately transformed and looked like they were made of black iron. Martial intent transformed into patterns that shone on his arms, and 6 flashes of fist chi shot forth. Peng! The fist parried the saber's blade, and the fist chi clashed with the saber, canceling each other out. Feng Yan's gaze tensed. He said, "Who are you? And why are you defending this person?" Yukai. Yu glanced over and could not help but be astonished, because even though this person was a cripple who had obviously lost one of his legs, he now had a prosthetic attached, and his pants leg revealed a bit of a white-colored metal, which had a circular shape and stood on the ground. His eyes swept over the symbol on Feng Yan's sleeve, and he could not help but be even more astonished as he mumbled, "When has our Winter Moon Sect started to take in cripples? Furthermore, this cripple looks really powerful." He was straightforward in his speech, and when he said this cripple, he was only saying things as they were, so in truth he did not have any intention to insult him. However, when Feng Yan heard this cripple sounded as if it was filled with malice. "You are seeking death." Feng Yan's eyes sharpened, and he was just about to deliver another attack. Linghan turned around and said, "Do you have some kind of problem? You plan to jump into a battle right from the moment you see us. Do you have no recognition for the rules of the sect?" Feng Yan paused. When he saw Linghan's back, It was 100% like his great enemies. But why was there such a huge difference the moment he turned around? This youth, or rather young man, did not have an outstanding appearance, and there was a great difference between his face and Ling Han's. But why? Did his voice give him such a familiar feeling, and his back looked so much like Ling Han's? Furthermore, this expression, the tone that he used to speak, was filled with the feeling that he detested. I was mistaken. Multiple thoughts streaked through his head, yet in the end he only said this. Crazy! Yuo Kaiyu glared angrily at him. He was the eldest grandson of the Yue clan, yet for some unfathomable reason he was attacked, which made him very displeased. But when he recalled the mission that he and Ling Han had, he did not currently have the time to call Feng Yan to accounts, so he said, I have something to do now, and I will deal with you when I come back. As he spoke, he tugged Ling Han and planned to leave. When he saw Ling Han's back, killing intent once again appeared on Feng Yan's face. He turned and looked at a disciple who was standing at the roadside and asked, Who are these two? Who are you, and why should I tell you? That disciple asked with his head held high, very displeased with Feng Yan's attitude. Feng Yan's eyes sharpened, and a terrifying aura exuded from him, which immediately made that disciple shiver in fear. He hurriedly answered, The slightly older one is Yue Kaiyu, senior brother Yu. He is Grand Elder Yue's great-grandson, and the other one is called Han Lin. He has just entered the sect 2 days ago, but he is the kind to attract trouble. He has just arrived, and has already killed Attendant Ao's beloved daughter, and now has been punished to enter the Dark Devil Forest to collect fiery sun grass. Feng Yan's right index finger suddenly flicked, and his killing intent spread. Han Lin, Ling Han, wasn't that precisely the other way round? Furthermore, he was a newly entered disciple, yet was so outrageously bold that he dared to kill the daughter of an attendant. This was very similar to Ling Han's personality. He immediately leaped up and left, heading towards the White Cloud Peak. This was where all the higher ranks of the Winter Moon sect lived. If one wanted to enter here, one at least had to be in the spiritual pedestal tier, or be the personal disciple of an elite of the spiritual infant tier or the flower blossom tier. Not even Yuo Kaiyu was qualified to live here. Feng Yan found the place where the information for the sect's disciples were recorded, directly drew out the personal token of Grand Elder Shi, and made the request to look at Ling Han's information. Suspicions were still only suspicions, after all. He wanted solid proof. Han Lin, 19 years old. He's from Return Origin Mountain and was at the first layer of the Spiritual Ocean tier upon his entry into the sect. As Feng Yan read, a sliver of a cold smirk appeared at his lips, and he said, Send someone to the Return Origin Mountain to verify this person's information. Young Master Yan, isn't that a bit of making a big fuss over a small issue? Do as I say, or do I need to ask my master to speak with you? I wouldn't dare. When Feng Yan left, his expression was dark. Han Lin, if you are really Ling Han, I will definitely have you die in the Winter Moon sect because you have sought your own death. Since you've concealed your identity, when I kill you, I would have only killed a minor character named Han Lin. Heng Heng. Ling Han and Yuo Kaiyu set out and headed towards Seabreeze City. It was unknown how long they would spend on this trip to the Dark Devil Forest, so naturally, he had to go and get Lu Yutong and the others first. Anyways, Yu Kaiyu did not know anyone of their group. To avoid being targeted by Ao Feng, Yue Zhenshan even escorted them personally, and he only returned to the Winter Moon sect after they had left the boundaries of the Yulong Mountains without spotting any sign of Ao Feng. That was because, even if Ao Feng's daughter had died, it was no matter, since he still had a considerable number of children left. But in his case, he only had this one son. The two of them arrived at the Seabreeze City, an extremely large city. It was a dozen times larger than even the imperial city of the Rain Country. The city walls that were over 100 meters tall cast a long shadow on the ground, and the whole city seemed like a colossal beast crawling. I need to go and find a few friends first, Ling Han said. All right. Yokai, Yu said without thinking too much about it, not worried that Ling Han could sell him off. Chapter 354, Who's Better at Picking Up Girls? Translator, Dark Angel. Han swiftly tracked down the inn where Lu Yutong and the others had taken lodging. By sheer happenstance, Lu Yutong and Li Xichan were descending the stairs together at that very moment, their manner suggesting they meant to go eat something. It was near midday, the hour perfectly aligned with lunch. Wah, two peerless beauties! Yue Kai-yu immediately let out a sharp whistle. Ling Han rolled his eyes and said, "They've got silk veils over their faces, and you can still tell they're beauties? Heh, trust these eyes of mine. Since I say they're beauties, then they're beauties for sure." Yue Kai-yu grinned as he patted Ling Han's shoulder and said, "You just wait here and watch. Let Big Brother Yu show you a few tricks for picking up a girl." Ling Han's expression turned a shade odd, and he asked, "You want to pick up both of them?" "One isn't too few, two isn't too many. Learn a bit. Aye, you're so tanned, and though you're not ugly, you're still miles away from handsome. Looks like you won't be able to absorb Big Brother Yu's profound wisdom," Yue Kai-yu said, shaking his head. Ling Han laughed and asked, "Aren't you afraid you'll pierce my fragile heart saying that?" As a person, the most important thing is to face reality. You really don't look very enticing, and the gap between you and the handsome, dashing visage of your Big Brother Yu is simply too great. Forget it. Let's not talk about this. First, observe the skill your Big Brother Yu has in picking up girls. With that, Yue Kai-yu strode in great steps toward Lu Yutong and the girls. However, after only a short while, he returned in a gloomy manner, looking utterly downcast. How was it? Got rebuffed? Ling Han cast a glance over and saw Hunyu still waving her little claws and baring her teeth at Yue Kai-yu. Yet when Ling Han caught her eye, the little girl couldn't help but tilt her head and inspect him from top to bottom. This little girl truly possessed terrifying instincts. After he had altered his appearance, even Lu Yutong and Li Xichan had not sensed the slightest peculiarity. Yet Hunyu seemed to have noticed something strange about him. Only she had not yet confirmed her suspicions. "Don't bring it up. Let's drink. No one's going home without getting drunk." Yue Kai-yu looked as though his heart had been shattered. Ling Han smiled faintly and said, "Why don't I show a few of my own tricks as well, and let you see what the best trick for picking up a girl really is?" "Ha ha!" Yue Kai-yu naturally didn't believe him at all, and laughed at him with open sarcasm. "If you can sit with them, then I'll be convinced." "What's so hard about that?" Ling Han clapped a hand on his shoulder and said, "Go find us a table first. Wait there, while I go bring them over." "Pooh." Yue Kai-yu nearly choked on his laughter as he said, Junior Brother Han, I'm truly impressed by your battle prowess, but your ability to boast seems even more formidable. Fine then. If you can bring them over, I'll call you Big Brother from now on." "That's what you said, so don't go regretting it," Ling Han said, shaking his head. "Yes, that's what I said. Go on, then." Yue Kai-yu looked as though he were waving him off to his doom. Without another word, Ling Han walked toward the table where Lu Yutong and Li Xichan were seated, while Yue Kai-yu watched from the side and searched for an empty table of his own. Naturally, a waiter soon approached him and asked for his order. How large could an inn's dining hall really be? With only a few steps, Ling Han was already in front of the table where Lu Yutong and Li Xichan sat. "My two misses, may I sit down?" Ling Han asked with a smile. Lu Yutong and Li Xichan both looked displeased at once. Even with their faces veiled, he could still make out the frown in their slender brows. It wasn't as if they had never encountered skirt chasers before, but it was the first time they had seen one bold enough to come straight over and try to sit at their table. "No," Li Xichan said icily. Meanwhile, Lu Yutong directly extended a slender, jade-like finger and pointed toward the main door. Her meaning was obvious, telling him to get lost. Yue Kai-yu laughed loudly. He had been rebuffed earlier, and so he naturally didn't believe that Ling Han, a fellow with nothing outstanding about him, and moreover so tanned, could possibly succeed. Otherwise, wouldn't that mean his own charm was too inferior, that he couldn't even measure up to Ling Han? Ling Han wasn't discouraged. He turned to Hunyu and asked, "Little beauty, may I sit beside you?" Hunyu said nothing at all and directly shifted backward, squeezing out space on what had been a long bench meant to seat only one person. Pooh! This time, it was Lu Yutong and Li Xichan's turn to choke. They had originally thought that even if Hunyu didn't explode, she would at least ignore this stranger. They had even prepared themselves to restrain Hu Nu together, to ensure the little girl didn't injure anyone. Yet, they never imagined the little girl would react like this. This. Had Hu Nu been bewitched? While the two girls stared in a daze, Ling Han had already sat down. He knew Hu Nu had already recognized him. He laughed and teased Hu Nu, and the little girl was exceedingly cooperative. Before long, she squeezed into his arms and began acting spoiled. Pa, Yokai Yu couldn't help but drop the chopsticks in his hand, his face twitching uncontrollably. Damn it, he had accounted for everything, yet overlooked a little girl in his calculations. Young beauties indeed wouldn't like Ling Han's type, tanned with rather ordinary looks. But what would a little girl know about what a handsome man looked like? He had never imagined his junior brother Han was so good with kids. Fortunately, he had only promised that Ling Han could sit at the same table as the two young beauties. But it was practically impossible for him to bring them over. There was no need for him to address Ling Han as big brother. Phew. He had almost suffered an unforeseen defeat. Liu Yutong and Li Xichan were both utterly baffled. Hu Nu rejected the approach of all strangers, and if it weren't for Ling Han, even they wouldn't have been able to get close to the little girl. Yet why could this unfamiliar man make Hu Nu act so defenseless, so warm and spoiled as if the man were Ling Han himself? Could it be? The eyes of the two girls brightened at the same time. They both knew Ling Han had changed his appearance and gone to the Winter Moon sect, so did that mean the young man before them was Ling Han mean, left for so long and not play with Nu? It was at that moment they heard Hu Nu speak with great displeasure, biting Ling Han's hand to show her dissatisfaction. Indeed, the two girls finally understood, and secretly felt ashamed as well. They were both deeply in love with Ling Han, yet they hadn't recognized their beloved standing right in front of them. On the other hand, Hu Nu had recognized him with a single glance. How could they tolerate that? Ling Han smiled faintly, ruffled Hu Nu's hair, and said, "All right, I'll play with Nu more often in the future." Hu Nu knew how to act spoiled, but she would never throw an unreasonable tantrum. She immediately stopped frowning and gave Ling Han a very sweet smile. Was this little girl some kind of vixen incarnate? That was far too cunning. Like this, Ling Han would certainly feel apologetic and dote on her even more. The two girls exchanged a glance and couldn't help but become alert in their hearts. They absolutely couldn't overlook Hu Nu just because she was little, because a little girl would very soon grow into a young girl. With Hu Nu's possessiveness, by then the two of them might not even be able to get within 10 meters of Ling Han. Ling Han nodded to the two girls and said, "My name right now is Han Lin, and that fellow over there is my cousin, but he doesn't know who I am. Come with me." Liu Yutong and Li Xichan instantly looked shy, yet they still rose and followed Ling Han back to where Yu Kai-yu was sitting. Pa! The chopsticks Yue Kai-yu had just picked up not long ago fell back onto the table again. His face twitched, and it looked as if his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. How was this possible? They were really brought over by this guy? Hiss. No matter how he looked at this junior brother Han, there wasn't any particularly outstanding part to him, was there? Or did women these days prefer the ordinary, tanned type?